I moved into my first house alone, then came home one night to find my parents sitting in the living room. When I asked how they got in, my mom waved a spare key I never gave her and said, "Now it's family property, so let's not make a big deal out of it." I politely opened the front door, smiled, and replied. When I bought the house, it felt like I'd won something nobody thought I ever would. Not the lottery, not a prize, not even a race. It was freedom. Clean, silent, untouchable freedom. I stood in the entryway that first day with my hands still on the doorknob, just listening. No TV blasting game shows. No arguments echoing through thin walls. No dog skittering across the floors leaving a trail of hair and stink behind it. It was just me. Me and this house I paid for, planned for, fought for. I was 34. Not proud of that. Most people move out a decade earlier. But when you grow up in a family like mine, it's not just about finances. It's like trying to swim while tied to a dock. You can kick and struggle all you want, but they've always got that rope. My parents didn't hit me or anything like that. They just used me. Constantly. My whole 20s were swallowed by bills that weren't mine, errands that became expectations, and a kind of guilt that got served at dinner every single night. Every time I tried to pull back or say no, my mom would remind me what family meant. My dad would call it doing my part. My sister, Julia, just rolled her eyes and left me with the mess. By 30, I was paying half the mortgage on a house I didn't own. My name wasn't even on the deed. The water heater went out. I fixed it. The dog, somewhat Julia brought home when she was 16, chewed through the couch. I paid for a new one. That dog hadn't been washed in years and had some issue where it couldn't hold its bladder for more than 2 hours. But it was part of the family. So it stayed. The day I got approved for my mortgage, I didn't tell them. I packed quietly. When I left, I just told them the internet bill would need to be transferred out of my name. My mom blinked like she hadn't heard right. My dad asked what I meant. I said, "I bought a house. I'm moving today." And I walked out. I expected a dozen missed calls. I got 3. 2 from my mom, 1 from Julia. I didn't answer any of them. The house wasn't fancy, but it was mine. 2 bedrooms, a fenced-in backyard, a pool that needed work but still held water. I bought a mattress, a table, some chairs, and a cheap couch. No TV. I didn't want noise. I wanted silence, and that's exactly what I got. That first week felt like coming back to life. I worked long hours, came home, made real dinners, lit candles, even read books again. I swam almost every evening, even though the pool was too cold. Sometimes I just floated there, staring up at the sky, thinking, "This is mine. All of it. Mine." I was careful. I didn't give anyone the address. I didn't invite them. I didn't even post pictures online. I wanted to keep it sacred. Untouched. But 8 days in, that spell broke. I pulled into the driveway around 8 p.m. after a long shift and saw 2 cars already there. One was unmistakably my dad's. The dent in the rear panel had been there since 2011. I just sat in my car for a minute, hoping I was wrong. When I opened the door, the smell hit first. That mix of wet dog, old laundry, and Julia's perfume. I stepped inside and there they were, my parents, Julia, and the dog, all sitting in the living room like it was theirs. The dog was on the couch, digging into the cushions. My mom was folding towels that I had just bought. My dad was sipping from one of my coffee mugs. Julia was scrolling on her phone, headphones in. There were open suitcases, grocery bags, and even a half-eaten rotisserie chicken on the table I'd cleaned the night before. I froze. I couldn't even speak at first. "How did you get in here?" My mom smiled and pulled a key from her pocket. A spare I never gave her. "Now this is family property, so let's not make a problem out of it." I stared at the key, then back at them. They all looked so relaxed, like they were in on some joke I wasn't part of. Like this wasn't insane. I should have shouted. I should have told them to leave right then. But I didn't. I don't know if it was shock, or guilt, or years of being trained to just go along with it, but I nodded. I said they could stay. Just for a little while. A week, I told myself. 1 week, and then they'd leave. I should have changed the locks that night. That first night with them in the house, I barely slept. Not because they were loud, though they were, but because I kept staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I let this happen again. I moved out to escape them. Now they were in my living room, eating my food, sleeping in my spare bedroom like it was some Airbnb I forgot I listed. The next morning, they were already in motion before I got up. My dad was in the garage, rearranging my tools. Said the layout was inefficient. My mom was in the kitchen, reorganizing cabinets. Claimed it would flow better, her way. Julia was in my office. My home office. With her laptop plugged in and a cup of coffee she didn't ask for sitting next to her. I reminded them, nicely, that this wasn't a vacation home. They said they knew. Just staying. Until things settled. When I asked what exactly had unsettled, no one gave a straight answer. They stayed in their pajamas most of the day, ordered delivery they didn't pay for, and watched TV loud enough to drown out my Zoom meetings. The dog had already peed twice by the time I got home from running errands. Once on the rug. Once in the corner of the hallway. My mom said he was just adjusting to the new space. I was adjusting too. Adjusting to being a guest in my own home. By day 4 it got worse. They started holding what they called family meetings. In my living room. On my couch. With me as the one being questioned. One night my dad asked if I could pitch in more on groceries since Julia was between jobs and things were tight. I blinked at him. I said I don't even eat here half the time. He shrugged. Said it wasn't about fairness, it was about family. They talked about rearranging furniture to make better use of the space. Julia said the backyard was big enough to build a little shed for her dog grooming business, even though she hadn't groomed anything besides her own ego in years. My mom suggested installing a doorbell camera, because they wanted to feel safe. I didn't even ask who was going to pay for that. The dog had claimed the hallway as its personal toilet. Every day I came home to new smells, new stains, and the same excuse: he's getting older. He's confused. He just needs more time. I was the one cleaning up after it. Every time. I tried to have a conversation with my mom on day 7. Told her it was time to start packing up. She gave me this long look like I'd said something shameful. You have so much space, she said. We're not bothering anyone. Then she paused and added something that stuck with me. Honestly, I think you're forgetting that this house came from us. You wouldn't even have it if we hadn't supported you all these years. That's when I knew. They didn't think they were guests. They thought they had a claim. That the years I spent paying their bills somehow translated into equity. That this wasn't my escape, it was just a new stage in the same performance, with me playing the same role: helper, provider, background character. A week passed. Nothing changed. I told them again clearly, I need the house back. All of it. I need my life back. My dad said I was being dramatic. My mom said I was making things uncomfortable. Julia rolled her eyes and called me ungrateful. I didn't fight. I didn't raise my voice. But that night, I started something else. Something slower. I took out my notebook and began writing things down. Dates, times, damages, comments, everything. I was done playing nice. If they wanted to play a long game, I was going to beat them at it. By the end of the second week, the notebook was more than just notes. It was becoming a case file. Every bizarre conversation, every property damage, every manipulation, I had it down. Not because I planned on suing anyone. That wasn't my style. But I knew if this turned into some legal nightmare, or worse, a mental one, I needed records. Something objective. Something to remind myself I wasn't crazy. Because they were slowly trying to make me feel like I was. They weren't just living in the house anymore. They were adapting it. My dad brought tools from the old place and started making improvements. He drilled a hook into the hallway to hang his jacket. Didn't ask. Just did it. When I pointed it out, he said he'd been thinking of putting up a few shelves too, since the entryway looked bare. Julia was now calling the guest room her room. She left her makeup in the bathroom, hair in the sink, used every clean towel, and when I asked her to put her clothes in a hamper, she said, "You're not my landlord." Technically, I was. But it was the little things that made me start losing sleep. One night I came home and noticed my bedroom door was cracked open. I always close it when I leave. Inside, I found one of my drawers half open. A few of my shirts had been moved. My deodorant was in a different spot. No one admitted anything. The next day, I changed the doorknob to one with a lock and kept the key with me. They noticed. My mom said it was sad that a family member feels the need to lock his own door in his own house. Exactly, I said. In my own house. They didn't like that response. Then came something I didn't expect. I came home from work and the door was chain locked. From the inside. Not just locked, but latched. I had to knock for several minutes. No answer. I called. No answer. I texted. Finally, Julia opened the door wearing headphones. She looked annoyed, like I had interrupted her day. I walked inside and found a printed schedule taped to the fridge. An actual schedule. My mom had made it in Word, complete with color-coded times and sections. House quiet hours, 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. No frying after 8 p.m. Pool closed during. Sibling work calls. Laundry hours reserved for Julia, weekends only. Bathroom mirror. Shared use policy. It read like a manual for some shared dorm space. Only I wasn't sharing. I was the damn owner. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at the schedule, then at the people who had created it. They weren't joking. They weren't apologetic. They really believed this was now a shared environment. Like I had invited them. Like this was all a collaborative living situation and not the house I had scraped and bled to buy. That night, I sat in my locked bedroom with the notebook and started a new section called Boundaries Violated. I was still figuring out my next move when the strangest moment of the week hit. I got a fraud alert from my bank. $312 attempted purchase. Pet store. Rejected. It included dog food, treats, and something called a certified ESA vest. I drove straight home. No text, no call. Just drove. When I walked in, Julia was sitting on the couch with the dog, smiling like she just solved world hunger. The dog was wearing a blue vest that said, Emotional Support Animal, in big white letters. I asked her what that was. She said it meant I couldn't kick them out without due process. She said she'd registered him online, and if I made things difficult, she could claim the dog had rights. Rights. I asked where she got the money for it. She smiled and said she used my card. Said she figured I wouldn't mind since I'd always helped the family out before. I stared at her. At the dog. At the vest. That moment was like a final click in my brain. They weren't staying until things settled. They were settling in. Claiming territory. Creating rules. Weaponizing family dynamics. Turning legal gray areas into tactical advantages. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. Instead, I stood there for a long second and said, Okay. Then I walked outside, sat at the edge of the pool, and called a lawyer. I told him everything. He asked if I had documentation. I said, I have a whole book. He told me the rules. As long as they weren't paying rent and had no lease, they weren't protected under tenant law. But getting them out without a fight would still take planning. I had to avoid threats, avoid confrontation, and most importantly, avoid giving them any leverage to claim harassment or emotional harm. Especially now, with the dog situation. The lawyer said something I won't forget. You're not just removing people. You're dismantling a power structure. Do it surgically. I agreed. So I made a plan. Quiet. Slow. Precise. Let the games begin. I started waking up earlier. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. It was the only time I could think. They all slept late. Julia usually didn't roll out of bed until noon unless she had some fake interview to prepare for. My mom wandered out around 10 to make coffee and criticize the brand I bought. My dad took his time with morning stretching in the living room, using my bath towel as a yoga mat. So if I wanted an hour of silence, I had to be up by 6. That's when the real strategy began. The lawyer gave me a checklist. The first thing on it, stop providing anything they can claim is shared. Utilities, food, supplies. If I wanted them gone, I had to make it clear, subtly, that their presence wasn't part of an arrangement. No shared groceries. No chores. No expectations. So I did exactly that. I cleared out the fridge. Tossed anything I didn't buy myself. Relabeled the shelves. One for me. Empty space below. Then I bought a small mini fridge and put it in my room. Filled it with what I needed. When Julia asked why there was no milk, I just said I hadn't needed any. I removed the Wi-Fi password. My dad noticed instantly. What's wrong with the internet? I shrugged. Said I was troubleshooting it. Maybe switching providers. Not sure yet. Told him I'd let him know when it was back. He looked annoyed. My mom looked suspicious. I replaced the guest room's light bulbs with dim, orange ones I found in a clearance bin. Left the air vent half closed. Started doing laundry late at night to clog up the scheduled Julia tape to the fridge. I also began logging everything more aggressively. Took pictures of new stains. Dated the pictures. Even weighed my utility bill, noticing when it spiked. And I sent copies of everything to my email. Just in case. Then came something I didn't expect, a visitor. On a random Tuesday afternoon, I pulled into the driveway and saw a car I didn't recognize. Parked right behind Julia's. When I walked in, there was a guy on the couch, eating chips out of my bowl. Julia introduced him as her boyfriend, Matt. He had apparently been hanging out for a few days. Not hours. Days. I asked what he was doing here. She told me he was helping her with some things, and that it was her right to have guests. Her right. I nodded. Asked how long he was staying. She said she hadn't decided. I said fine, but from now on, if anyone else came over, I'd need to be informed. In writing. She rolled her eyes and said I was being paranoid. But Matt didn't roll his eyes. Matt looked nervous. He probably realized something she hadn't. He was trespassing. No invitation. No permission. The next day, I printed out a sign and stuck it on the front door. Private residence. Authorized entry only. Owner reserves the right to refuse access. All visitors must be approved. I caught my mom reading it later and whispering to my dad. They were starting to realize something was shifting. Then I set a trap. I installed 2 small cameras. One in the entryway, one near the garage. Not hidden. Clearly visible. I didn't tell anyone. Just let them see the little blinking lights and guess what was being recorded. 2 days later, I noticed something new. Julia wasn't leaving the dog alone anymore. She'd stopped letting it roam free. The messes in the hallway disappeared. I didn't say anything. I just added it to the notebook. Visible camera equals reduced dog behavior. On Saturday morning, my dad came into the kitchen and asked when I planned to take everyone out for dinner. Said it had been a rough few weeks and we could use some bonding. I asked who was paying. He said, "You, of course. You make the most." I told him there would be no dinner. That night, I moved one step closer. I had typed up a document, a formal request for voluntary departure. Polite, non-threatening but firm. It outlined the dates, reminded them they had no lease, no ownership, and no financial ties to the property. I left copies in each of their rooms. I didn't speak about it. Just waited. My mom tore hers up and left the scraps on the counter. Julia used hers as a coaster. But my dad folded his. Neatly. Didn't say anything. The shift had started. The silence that followed wasn't peace, it was planning. I could feel it. After I left the notices in their rooms, the energy in the house changed. Not loud. Not dramatic. But cold. Like a silent protest. Nobody mentioned the papers, but they all reacted in their own way. My mom stopped cooking. Not that she did it often, but now she made a point of saying she wasn't sure what was hers anymore. Julia started slamming doors like she was 13 again. And my dad? He didn't say a word. Just sat in the garage, fiddling with tools, making noise without actually fixing anything. I knew it wouldn't take long before they retaliated. I was right. That weekend, I woke up early and saw something taped to the hallway wall. Another printed sign. This one said, "Family Respect Zone." No yelling. No secret recordings. All conflicts to be resolved via family discussion. It was in Comic Sans. They were trying to be funny, I think. Or trying to mock what I was doing. Either way, it didn't matter. I didn't take it down. I just took a picture and added it to the folder. I'd already been talking to a friend of mine, Josh, who worked in property law. He wasn't a lawyer, but he dealt with evictions and landlord-tenant stuff all the time. When I told him what was happening, he said something I hadn't considered. You need to make the house uncomfortable. Not illegal. Not dangerous. Just less convenient. Less appealing. Take away the little comforts. So I did. I removed the TV remote batteries. Took the knobs off the stove when I left for work. Turned off the water heater breaker from the panel outside during the day. Cold showers. No frying. No binge-watching trash TV. I wasn't being malicious. Just surgical. Then I changed the Wi-Fi password again. This time, when they asked, I said it was under maintenance. Julia lost it. Said she had interviews coming up. I told her the library had free Wi-Fi. They all started retreating more. My dad stopped coming inside during the day. Sat outside smoking, muttering to himself. My mom got passive-aggressive. Left notes on the fridge like, "If you buy apples, buy some for others too." I responded by locking my mini fridge. Then Julia made her move. I came home and found the dog had torn apart one of my books. Not a random one. The notebook. The one with all the documentation. Pages were chewed. Some were missing. A chunk had been ripped clean out. I walked into her room and asked what happened. She didn't even deny it. "Maybe you shouldn't leave important stuff lying around where animals can get to it," she said. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just walked back to my room, sat down, and sent every single picture, every scanned page, every text message and note I had backed up to Josh. And then I sent a copy to my actual lawyer. That night, I installed a new lock on my bedroom door. One with a keypad. Digital, silent, unpickable. Julia saw me doing it. Said I was being paranoid. I told her I'd seen the dog chewing a wire the other day and didn't want to take chances. She looked confused. There was no wire. I was planting doubt. The next morning, I did something bigger. I printed out a formal letter. Not from me. From the lawyer. Titled, "Notice of Termination of Implied License to Occupy Premises." Plain English, you have no legal right to be here, and this is your formal warning. I gave them 3 days. The next evening, my mom stood at the bottom of the stairs and said, "If we go, we're cutting contact. Don't come back when you need help." I said I won't. Then she said something that actually shocked me. "You think you're better than us now. That house changed you." "No," I said. "You staying in it changed me." Julia cried. My dad walked out of the house and didn't come back until midnight. The 3 days ticked by. And then, on the morning of day 4, I opened the door and found the living room half empty. No dog. No Julia. Just a note. "You win. But don't expect us to forget it." It wasn't over. Not yet. But the walls were cracking. The power was shifting. And I wasn't giving an inch back. The last one to go was my dad. He lingered around like a guy waiting for a better offer, pacing through the garage, watching sports with the volume muted like it meant something. On the 5th day, I found him out back by the pool, staring at the water like it had secrets. "You're really doing this?" he asked. I didn't even answer. That night, he left without a word. Took his mug, the one he always used, and nothing else. Not even his tools. I found them all still piled in the garage 2 days later. I donated most of it. And just like that, they were gone. At first, the silence felt suspicious. Like they were waiting around the corner, like they might knock again or call with some guilt-soaked emergency. But they didn't. I think they realized something that scared them more than losing control of me, that I had stopped needing anything from them. They tried one last jab. A few weeks after they left, my aunt accidentally forwarded me a group text about a family weekend in Lake Tahoe. Cabin, food, even some dumb matching t-shirts with "Family First" printed across the front. I wasn't on the invite list. Didn't get a call. Didn't get a text. Not even a fake apology. They didn't forget me. They excluded me. On purpose. My mom posted pictures of them smiling on a boat, holding plastic cups like they were the Kennedy family. Captioned it with, "Just the real crew this time. Peace and love, Red Heart." Julia commented underneath with 3 laughing emojis and a dog emoji. It was supposed to hurt. It didn't. Because here's the thing, now when I come home from work, I open the door, and the only sound I hear is my own breath. No dog smell. No notes on the fridge. No rules taped to the walls. The pool is clean. My bedroom is locked. The mini fridge holds nothing but what I like. I even got a cat. Quiet, independent, no drama. Just vibes. Sometimes I sit in the backyard with a drink, light on inside, music low, and think about how they still believe they're punishing me by cutting me out. Truth is, they saved me the trouble. They still haven't invited me to a single holiday since. Not Thanksgiving. Not Christmas. I heard through someone that my mom told people I was off on my own journey, like I joined a cult or something. Let them think that. Because now, this house is mine in every sense. And for the first time in my life, so is my peace.